Hi, thank you for joining me for my case study of parental apathy. We'll look at community relations, school community relations, and how they affected this particular case. What we do know about the situation is that Mrs. Rose has come into a school that's got some challenges for her. She's the new assistant principal, and she brings some new knowledge. She recognizes the importance of school community relations, and she's wanting to bring that forward with her new school. What we don't know about Mrs. Rose is she a veteran of the school she's been administering? Has she been receiving her degree while working at the school, or does she come in new? Is this something new for her? Has she had previous experience with this principal? Does she kind of know the ins and outs of how to handle him, the diplomacy of it? And how long has she been a citizen in the community, or is she even a citizen of the community as yet? We don't know that. That can all be information that's very helpful for her and for a successful launch of school community relations. For the principal, what we know is that he believes the status quo is fine. His previous experiences have dissuaded him from any further outreach, and he seems to enjoy speaking to the community directly. That is a good thing, but it would be even better if we knew there weren't silos that were being created. His preferred method of communication is the telephone, and though that's wonderful, we have to keep in mind that there's a certain amount of personal connection that's lost when you're using just the telephone. And a good thing, he has exhibited an ability to be flexible with his opinions and the way he does things. What we don't know about him is just exactly what else he has done in the past for community outreach. He's obviously been disillusioned with his attempts, but who knows how long ago it was that he tried to do that, and the population, the makeup of the parents and community may have changed. We don't know really what his leadership style is, and that can be real important based on if he's willing to work as a part of a team, or does he insist on being a leader. Also, what is his relationship with the community? Greater detail exactly of what the community views as his role and what he sees the community role in the school is. Also, it'd be nice to know how long he's been the principal of this particular school. We also have an element that's added is the community. We know that there's been no PTA or PTO involved, and it appears that the community has no interest in working in the cafeteria. That doesn't mean they might not be interested in doing something else. They're described as apathetic. There's a lot of things that can play into that attitude. And the impression is that they want the educators to do all the work. Again, that's a one-sided view from the principal. We'll have to take a look further and deeper to see what there is really going on there. At the recent meeting in the case study, the turnout was very poor, and we'll have to look at that and see if we can evaluate that a little further. What we don't know about the community are the relationships other staff in the school may have with the parents and the community. We also don't know anything about who works, where they work, when they work, whether the home is a single-parent home, whether it's a home that requires parents to work more than one job, or if there are two parents both working. We don't know what type of transportation they may have, or what methods of communication are available to them. We don't know the parents' interests and conflicts, and we don't know are there things there that are creating barriers for them to be able to work with the school. We also don't know what other efforts have been put forth by the parents which have created this amount of apathy. Have they reached out in the past and met with silence or even negativity? We don't really know these elements, and it's pretty important. When it comes to resolving the problem, we can look at what we know and what we don't know, and from there we can definitely create some solutions to the problem. And we have to really begin with the principal buy-in. He is right now either consciously or unconsciously confirming his initial negative experiences, and we see that in the method that he's using for this most recent outreach. He's giving the kids notes, and we all know that the kids are going to be maybe 30% successful in giving those notes out at the end of a Friday on a weekend. It's giving the parents exactly 1 week to figure out whether or not they'll be able to join that meeting, and the meeting may not be set at the best time for the parents. So what we need to do is reignite that principal's passion for outreach, present positive arguments for actively and intelligently implementing school community relations. So what we're going to ask Mrs. Rose to do with the principal is to go ahead and put together a plan in which she develops data and research and current and best practices to present to peers and create an energy for change that will include an analysis of the impact of poor communications. She's going to spotlight the good stuff and highlight the bad stuff. With the backing of her peers, she's going to go with the rest of the staff and work with them to present this information so that the principal can get that buy-in, so that they can help him come on board. In an engaging way with the principal and utilizing all of his current knowledge, she's going to persuasively argue the benefits of developing good communications, and her plan will involve all the stakeholders, to include the community, to include businesses, families, of course the staff of the school, and most especially the principal, who right now may need a little bit of a push. Mrs. Rose is also going to, very important now, to identify timelines, give some idea of when you expect something to go into place, when you expect to launch, and create baselines. So you need to develop measurable data, because not only is it something we want to present to the school board, but also to any stakeholders that may be interested. This may be information that we provide to our families and our newsletters. It may be information that we provide to the media. It could be something that our political leaders would be interested in. Again, coming back to another problem here, we have that lack of data that I talked about earlier. Who are our stakeholders? Who are the target audience that we're trying to reach? We don't know our community, and therefore we can't remove the barriers and create some incentives. We don't know what the incentives are. We don't know what moves people, so we're going to have to figure that out. What we're going to do is establish procedures that are going to look at the different work-life challenges of the community, and we're going to try to determine those incentives or the motivators, and we're going to do that through data collection. For this, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and work with the available data that's easy to get a hold of, research demographics through our known sources, which might be state data, which is U.S. Census data, that type of thing. Also within the school, we already have some available data, so we can look at the historical data within the school. What's been made available to teachers, word of mouth from the parents, reports that teachers may have had, previous interactions with parents, and of course all of the various records that we have available, such as contact information. I'm going to identify and engage the staff who are familiar with the community. So let's look for those people that are in touch with what's going on in the community. We're going to, through various methods, survey the parents, the teachers, and the community, and determine the best methods to communicate, as well as the best times and locations. Utilizing social media, we're going to develop surveys and questions designed for to better know our targets. Those are going to continue to be used throughout in our outreach. When we look at communication, it's interesting to think about outreach and communication. Of course, they go hand in hand. What types of communication is best with the families, with the parents, and with the students? Are notes and telephones the best way to do things? Probably not. We're going to expand that. We're going to add maybe the telephone tree. We're going to make sure that we have email for everybody who has that available to them. Let's use some snail mail. It doesn't really go out of style. We're going to look at newsletters, whether they be electronic, whether it be snail mail, whether it be something that's put out on Facebook. We're going to use social media, and we're also going to outreach to our media outlets. With communication, how are we going to do this? Develop positions to include a liaison. I think it's really important that we have dedicated personnel to solve these problems, especially when we're starting at the implementation stage on things. And here, this person is probably going to want to go ahead and update the contact records that we currently have on file. We're going to update telephone notification system. If we don't already have that phone tree, we're going to want to have that in place. And we also want to have a tiered system in which our parents know whether or not this is an emergency call, whether or not it's an informational call. Establish some method of tiering. Implement or update the website. If we have a website, or if we don't have one, let's bring it in, and let's include in there the ability to notify our parents through automatic push notifications, perhaps, or even through text notifications. Let's bring that into the 21st century. And another piece of that is that even though we have that out there, we don't know that our parents are aware that it's out there or that they know how to use it. So for us to go ahead and put together a few workshops, for sure. And maybe don't forget to keep on adding workshops. Every year we see a new population that comes into the school, so every year we should, reach out to parents in the community and let them know about the things that are available to the students and through the school, and show them how to reach those things. We want to be sure to develop operating procedures, because even though you put something in place, that doesn't necessarily mean people are going to be dedicated to making sure that stays in place. So we want to make sure that if we're doing mailings, that we're doing these mailings monthly or bi-monthly, and that somebody's held accountable for that. Social media, if we have somebody in charge of that, we want to make sure that we set specific metrics for when they should check in or when they shouldn't, etc., etc. We will now record and provide all community input for review at staff and community meetings, because we don't want people to be silent. We don't want them shouting into an empty room. We want to make sure all that information, whether it's valid, whether it's pertinent, we're going to bring it forward and maybe have some discussion about it. And then from there we look at the parental apathy. And what we know historically is the community has not been interested in the cafeteria work and has had little presence at meetings. In addition, our principal reports the previous conversations indicates parents want the teachers to deal with everything. He even goes so far as to say that there might be negative consequences. Well, our plan is already in motion, as you can see through some of those initiatives that we have. How do we remove the parental apathy? We have to pay attention to them. We have to pay attention to their suggestions, and we have to communicate that the new energy is being interjected into the process. So we're looking forward to having parents involved. And again, we're solving those problems with apathy, working with the families that have shown an interest. Those 8 families that were in that problem, we're not going to sit here and say, well, there's not enough people that showed up to the meeting, so we'll just reschedule it. That's not only, rude and thoughtless, but it certainly makes an impression on these people that their time is invaluable. We're going to develop a respect for parents and community, which includes that all those meetings, regardless of attendance, and being considerate of schedules and families. Respect has to start somewhere, and let it start with you, and hopefully people will follow and start giving you that same respect. Parents and community, let them have a public forum. Give them the ability to bring their concerns out there so that we can identify. You don't have to put names on these ideas unless people want their names on them. Some of them we know are probably not going to be feasible, but we should always have the conversation. Bring the community together for events which don't necessarily emphasize time commitments or sacrifices. Let's make this something fun. Let's get to know our neighbors. There's a lot of things that we can do. There's a lot of people who have passions in certain charities, and we can have our student body involved in things like that. Let's create a rewards-based system of volunteerism to include recognition and incentives. Maybe it's something that's donated through community partners, or maybe it's simply us giving a shout out on our Facebook page to our parents that were really outstanding in helping us out. We just have to identify those things that motivate our parents. We also want to present the data to the community showing those positive efforts and the student outcomes when there's a robust school communications. We want people to really know how important it is to our students that this is something that we bring forward. So now that we've taken a look at the problem and we've come up with some solutions, let's get a snapshot of the before and after picture. Before we came up with a solution, we did have a principal who was the sole avenue of communication, and students were the last-minute messengers for him. Afterwards, through collaboration and innovation, the parents are able to engage in two-way communication with the school in a timely manner. Through collaboration, the students' opportunities for success are expanded. Diverse backgrounds and learning styles are now encouraged. As our world enlarges, so too does our desire to know more about the world. Before, communication silos were in place. There was definitely a vacuum of information. And now we have numerous redundancies created, several avenues to receive and transmit information. For the students, issues which may be barriers to learning can now be identified with every voice that's available to us. Sometimes we need the fresh perspective of the outside to let us know maybe we can do things better. Before, the staff was underutilized or positioned incorrectly for maximum positive outcome. Now, we have a dedicated liaison, and that frees up others and concentrates on improving and maintaining communication. The community has a dedicated contact, and the principal can manage more critical aspects of administration. And like-minded team members can now support and advance the mission. The benefit to students is that the clear channels of communication remove frustrations for the teacher, and teachers are more focused on education than on diplomacy or putting out small fires. Before, community input and engagement was non-existent. Now the community and community partners recognize that their ideas and input are heard and valued. This perpetuates energy to develop bigger goals. For the students, increased focus on citizenship and volunteerism is a benefit. A wider variety of extracurricular programming might be an outcome now that we've engaged with the community and its partners. Before, our parents felt alienated from the school and disconnected from their children's school day. Therefore, they didn't act as members of a cohesive teaching-parenting team. Now, parents' ideas are encouraged and concerns are addressed. As they begin to receive a sense of self-worth, self-esteem and pride in their school generates enthusiasm and community spirit. For the students, that educational support continues in the home. Students are prepared for their school day, and parents are interested in their success. So looking at the components of the problem, we see that we needed to solve this utilizing positive energy, recognizing shortcomings as opportunities, and we needed to take what we had, which was right now 5 parents and a reluctant principal, and just grow from there. From a small seed, we can do great things. Compassionately, we needed to guide the principal to understand that his job becomes easier and his school becomes more successful if he invites everyone along to help. Getting to know the community on a deeper level through personal experience, survey, and direct interviews will help to identify diverse needs of the community. Learning who we are is the first step to outreach and inclusion. Respecting each other is the impetus for perpetuation of diversity and inclusion. Knowing parents' schedules and strengths will allow the liaison to build a comprehensive volunteer plan. Part of knowing the community is knowing its strengths, reaching out to those who are willing and able to participate in the school and its students' success. The liaison may be tasked with reaching out to local businesses and media, as well as social networking, and capitalize on resources. As a building-level administrator, I would need to begin by developing a spirit of collaboration with the principal. Strong team-building skills will have to be shown by convincing the principal that school-community relations is in the best interests of everyone, and I will have to bring a plan to the table that's completely comprehensive to include data on negative effects of poor communication, as well as the positive outcomes of healthy community relations. The families that are interested in participating will help to grow the community. Every parent's child knows another child in the school and their parents. Establishing a dedicated liaison will let the community know that the school is openly soliciting its assistance and is willing to be a working partner. Creating volunteer opportunities for students will help them to grow their understanding of the world around them and the needs of their community. Appropriately nurtured, Collaborative efforts will be self-sustaining and perpetual. All of these actions reflect Standard 4, utilizing school resources, families, and community resources to identify and respond to the diverse needs and interests of the community and engage it in helping to grow a stronger school and community. Our schools are a resource as well as an obligation, and in making that resource available, we open the door to collaboration. Thank you for watching, and I enjoyed this course.